Captain Marcus Chen stood at the observation deck of the human research vessel Endeavour, watching the massive Zephyrian dreadnought slowly approach their position. The alien ship was easily 10 times the size of their modest exploration craft, its crystalline hull gleaming with an otherworldly blue light that spoke of technologies humanity could barely comprehend. "They're hailing us again, Captain," reported Lieutenant Sarah Park from the communication station. Her voice carried the tension that had gripped the entire crew since the Imperial fleet had surrounded them 3 hours ago. Marcus nodded grimly. The Zephyrian Galactic Empire had made first contact with humanity only 6 months ago, and the relationship had been strained from the beginning. The aliens viewed humans as primitive upstarts, barely worthy of acknowledgement in their vast interstellar domain. Today's encounter would likely cement that opinion. "Put them through," Marcus ordered, straightening his uniform. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the imposing figure of Admiral Vexthara, her elongated cranium adorned with the traditional neural implants of the Zephyrian military elite. Her 6 arms moved in what Marcus had learned was a gesture of barely contained impatience. "Human vessel." The Admiral's voice resonated through the ship's speakers, her words translated by the Universal Communication Matrix. "You have violated Imperial Survey Zone 7, Alpha without proper authorization. Your primitive scanning equipment has interfered with our archaeological operations." Marcus kept his expression neutral, though inside he bristled at the casual dismissal. "Admiral Vexthara, we were following standard exploration protocols in what we believed to be unclaimed space. We had no knowledge of your archaeological dig." The Admiral's 4 eyes narrowed, their bioluminescent patterns shifting to what Marcus recognized as contempt. "Ignorance is not an excuse, primate. Your species lacks the sophistication to understand the significance of what lies beneath this world's surface. We are excavating artifacts from the precursor civilization, technologies that predate your pathetic chemical rockets by millions of years. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the expedition's chief archaeologist, stepped forward. She had spent years studying the few precursor ruins discovered in human space, and her excitement was barely contained despite the tense situation. "Admiral, if I may, humanity has also encountered precursor sites. Perhaps we could share our findings and work together on this excavation." The Admiral's laugh was a harsh, musical sound that sent chills down Marcus's spine. "Share with humans? Your primitive minds could not grasp even the most basic precursor concepts. We have been studying their civilization for over 1,000 years. What could you possibly contribute?" Dr. Vasquez's jaw tightened, but she maintained her professional composure. "We've made significant breakthroughs in deciphering precursor mathematical principles and energy matrix configurations. Our approach may be different from yours, but it has yielded results." "Impossible," Admiral Vexthara scoffed. "The precursors were beings of pure intellect, masters of quantum manipulation and stellar engineering. They would not have designed their technologies to be understood by such a young species." Marcus felt his patience wearing thin. The Zephyrians' arrogance was legendary throughout the galaxy, but experiencing it firsthand was infuriating. "Admiral, with respect, humanity may be young, but we've proven ourselves capable of rapid advancement and creative problem-solving." "Creative?" The Admiral's patterns flashed in what Marcus now recognized as amusement. "You mean destructive. Your species' history is nothing but warfare and violence. Even now, your ships carry those crude projectile weapons you call firearms." "How quaint." The dismissive tone sparked something in Marcus. Throughout human space, their military had been mocked by other species for maintaining kinetic weapons alongside their more advanced energy systems. The Zephyrians, like most galactic powers, had moved beyond physical projectiles millennia ago, viewing them as relics of a barbaric past. "Those weapons have served us well," Marcus replied evenly. "I'm sure they have, against other primitives," the Admiral said with clear condescension. "But you are in civilized space now. Your crude toys are no match for Imperial force screens and plasma artillery." Vasquez tried to steer the conversation back to the archaeological site. "Admiral, regardless of our technological differences, the precursor site below represents knowledge that could benefit all species. Surely scientific cooperation is more valuable than territorial disputes." Admiral Vexthara's 4 arms gestured in what Marcus had learned was the Zephyrian equivalent of waving away an annoying insect. There will be no cooperation. You will depart this system immediately or face the consequences of defying Imperial authority. And if we refuse? Marcus asked, knowing he was pushing dangerous boundaries but unable to back down completely. Then you will be destroyed, the Admiral replied matter-of-factly, though I suspect your primitive vessel would pose no challenge to our advanced systems. Your chemical rockets and metal projectiles would be utterly useless against our technology. The communication channel closed abruptly, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Marcus stared at the blank screen, his mind racing through their limited options. The Endeavor was a research vessel, lightly armed and never intended for military confrontation against a galactic superpower. Captain, Lieutenant Park spoke up hesitantly. Long-range sensors are detecting more Imperial ships approaching. We're completely outnumbered. Vasquez moved to Marcus's side, her expression thoughtful. Captain, there might be another option. Our preliminary scans of the planet's surface detected some unusual readings near the precursor site. If we could get a team down there, the Admiral made it clear that the site is off-limits, Marcus replied, though he could see where the archaeologist's mind was heading. Yes, but she also made it clear that she considers us no threat, Dr. Vasquez continued. Their security might be focused on preventing other major powers from interfering, not watching for what they see as primitive humans. Marcus considered the proposal. It was risky beyond measure, but the alternative was retreating with their tails between their legs, confirming every stereotype the galaxy held about humanity's weakness. What exactly are you proposing, Doctor? A small survey team. We slip down to the surface while their attention is focused on our ship. If there really are precursor artifacts down there, finding something significant could change everything. Not just for this situation, but for humanity's standing in the galactic community. Lieutenant Commander James Wright, the ship's tactical officer, shook his head. It's suicide. If they catch us, they'll vaporize the whole team without a second thought. Maybe, Dr. Vasquez acknowledged. But if we do nothing, we're just confirming their belief that humans are cowardly primitives who run at the first sign of trouble. Marcus weighed the options. The Zephyrian Empire controlled over 300 star systems and commanded the most advanced military in the known galaxy. Their technology was centuries ahead of humanity's best efforts, and their attitude toward younger species was openly contemptuous. But retreat would only reinforce their prejudices and potentially close off future opportunities for human expansion. How long would you need on the surface? Marcus asked finally. Dr. Vasquez's eyes lit up with excitement and determination. Give me 6 hours with a full archaeological team and proper equipment. If there's anything significant down there, we'll find it. And if there isn't, then at least we'll have tried. At least we'll have shown that humans don't just roll over when faced with superior force. Marcus looked around the bridge at his crew. These were good people, scientists and explorers who had signed up to push the boundaries of human knowledge, not to engage in military confrontations with galactic superpowers. But he could see in their faces the same frustration he felt at being dismissed so casually. Commander Wright, what's our tactical situation? The tactical officer consulted his displays. Not good. 3 dreadnoughts, a dozen cruisers, and at least 20 escort vessels. They're maintaining a loose perimeter around the planet, but their sensors are focused outward, watching for other Imperial ships or potential threats from major powers. Blind spots? The planet's magnetic field and atmospheric interference create some sensor shadows, particularly near the polar regions. If we could get a shuttle down through one of those gaps, do it, Marcus decided. Dr. Vasquez, select your team. Full archaeological survey kit plus whatever security personnel you think you need. You have 6 hours to find something that will make the Zephyrians take notice. As the crew sprang into action, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to cross a line that would fundamentally change humanity's relationship with the galaxy. The Zephyrians saw humans as primitive warmongers clinging to obsolete weapons and outdated tactics. Perhaps it was time to show them exactly what human determination and ingenuity could accomplish when properly motivated. The shuttle bay bustled with activity. As Dr. Vasquez's team prepared for what could very well be a suicide mission. The planet below held secrets that had remained buried for millions of years. And somewhere in those ancient ruins might lie the key to changing everything the galaxy thought it knew about the newest members of the cosmic community. Admiral Vexthara's dismissive words echoed in Marcus's mind as he watched the shuttle preparations. Chemical rockets and metal projectiles, crude toys that posed no challenge to Imperial technology. The Admiral had no idea how wrong she was about to be proven. The shuttle Pioneer descended through the planet's atmosphere like a ghost, its stealth systems straining to mask its approach from Zephyrian sensors. Dr. Elena Vasquez gripped her seat restraints as the craft shuddered through atmospheric turbulence, her mind racing with possibilities about what they might find on the surface. 2 minutes to touchdown, reported Pilot Officer Chen, his hands steady on the controls despite the dangerous circumstances. Sensor shadows are holding, but we won't have long before they notice we're gone. The shuttle touched down in a crystalline valley surrounded by towering spires that defied conventional physics, their surfaces rippling with patterns that hurt to look at directly. The precursor ruins stretched for kilometers in every direction, a testament to a civilization that had mastered technologies humanity could barely imagine. Atmospheric readings are normal, announced Dr. James Morrison, the team's xenogeologist. No hostile environmental factors detected. Dr. Vasquez was the first out of the shuttle, her portable scanning equipment already active as she surveyed the alien landscape. The precursor structures seemed to pulse with an inner light, responding to some unknown energy source that had remained active for millions of years. Incredible, she breathed, her instruments detecting energy patterns unlike anything in human databases. These readings are off the charts. The power source alone could revolutionize our understanding of physics. Sergeant Rodriguez and his security team fanned out in a protective perimeter, their weapons at ready despite the apparent emptiness of the site. The veteran Marine kept his eyes on the horizon, watching for any sign of Zephyrian patrol craft. "Doctor, we need to move fast," Rodriguez reminded her. "Every minute we stay here increases the risk of detection." Vasquez nodded, leading her team toward the largest structure in the immediate area. The building rose nearly 100 meters into the sky, its surface covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Her translation software was already working overtime, trying to decode the ancient script. As they approached the entrance, the massive doors suddenly irised open with a sound like distant thunder. The team froze, weapons raised, but no threat emerged from the darkened interior. "Motion sensors?" Dr. Morrison suggested. "More likely genetic recognition, Doctor," Vasquez replied, consulting her readings. The precursors were known for their biotechnology integration. "The structure is probably scanning us as we approach." They entered cautiously, their headlamps cutting through the gloom to reveal a vast chamber filled with what could only be described as technological artifacts. Rows upon rows of metallic objects lined the walls, each one different from the others but clearly part of some greater collection. "It's a museum," Dr. Vasquez realized with growing excitement. "Or maybe an armory. These are preserved examples of precursor technology." Morrison's geological scanner was picking up massive energy signatures throughout the facility. The power systems are still active after all this time. "The level of technological sophistication required to maintain operational status for millions of years. Focus, people," Sergeant Rodriguez interjected. "We need something we can actually use, not just admire." Vasquez moved deeper into the chamber, her translation software finally beginning to make sense of the alien symbols. These inscriptions, they're not just labels. They're instructions, operating manuals. She stopped in front of a particular section where dozens of cylindrical objects were mounted on crystalline stands. Each cylinder was roughly the size of a human torso, with intricate mechanical components visible through transparent sections. "What are they?" Dr. Morrison asked, leaning closer. Dr. Vasquez studied her readings and the translated text with growing amazement. "According to this, they're kinetic acceleration devices. Projectile weapons." Sergeant Rodriguez looked skeptical. "The precursors used guns? That doesn't match anything we know about their technology level. Not guns as we understand them." "Doctor," Vasquez corrected, her excitement building. "These are mass acceleration weapons that use quantum field manipulation to achieve velocities approaching significant fractions of light speed. But the basic principle," she paused, her mind making connections that seemed impossible. "Doctor?" Rodriguez prompted. "The basic principle is the same as a Gatling gun," she finished in amazement. "Multiple rotating barrels, sequential firing mechanism, sustained rate of fire. It's the same concept, just powered by technology we can barely comprehend. The irony was staggering. The precursors, beings of such advanced intellect that they had manipulated stellar formations and transcended physical existence, had created weapons based on the same fundamental principles that human engineers had developed centuries ago. Can we understand how they work? Dr. Keene, Morrison asked. Vasquez was already connecting her portable analysis equipment to one of the weapon stands. The instruction manuals are incredibly detailed. It's like they were specifically designed to be understood by emerging civilizations. As her computers processed the alien data, a holographic display suddenly materialized above the weapon platform. The three-dimensional image showed the internal mechanisms of the device in perfect detail, with annotations in multiple languages including what appeared to be simplified mathematical concepts. They're teaching tools, Dr. Vasquez realized. The precursors left these here as educational examples for younger species to find and learn from. Sergeant Rodriguez examined the weapons with a professional eye. If these things work the way you're describing, they'd be devastating against energy-based defenses. Most modern shields are designed to disperse plasma and laser attacks, not high-velocity physical projectiles. Exactly, Dr. Vasquez agreed. The Galactic powers have become so focused on energy weapons that they've forgotten the effectiveness of kinetic systems. But the precursors understood that different situations require different solutions. Dr. Morrison was studying the power systems with fascination. The energy source appears to be some kind of zero-point field generator. Theoretically unlimited power draw from quantum fluctuations in space-time itself. Can we take one with us? Rodriguez asked practically. Vasquez checked the mounting systems. They're designed to be portable. Look, there are carrying handles and what appears to be a simplified activation sequence. As if responding to her words, one of the weapons detached from its stand with a soft chime. The device was surprisingly light for its size, clearly engineered with advanced materials that made human technology look crude by comparison. The holographic display updated, showing basic operation instructions with symbols that were almost universally intuitive. Point, activate, fire. The sophisticated targeting systems and ballistic computers were handled automatically by the weapon's artificial intelligence. We need to get back to the ship, Rodriguez urged, constantly checking his chronometer. We've been here for 3 hours already. Dr. Vasquez reluctantly agreed, though she could have spent days studying the incredible technology around them. They selected 3 of the weapons along with what appeared to be ammunition fabrication units and portable power systems. The trip back to the shuttle was tense, with everyone expecting Zephyrian patrol craft to appear at any moment. But their luck held, and they reached the Pioneer without incident. During the flight back to the Endeavor, Dr. Cepacis Vasquez worked feverishly to understand the weapons systems they had recovered. The precursor technology was far beyond anything humanity had achieved, but the basic principles were surprisingly familiar. It's brilliant, she explained to Sergeant Rodriguez as they approached their ship. The precursors understood that technological advancement doesn't always mean abandoning fundamental physical principles. Sometimes it means applying those principles with perfect efficiency. The weapons they had recovered were essentially ultra-advanced Gatling guns, capable of firing projectiles at velocities that would punch through any known defensive system. But more importantly, they represented proof that human weapons concepts weren't primitive barbarism, but rather timeless engineering solutions that even the most advanced civilization in galactic history had recognized as effective. As the shuttle docked with the Endeavor, Dr. Vasquez found herself thinking about Admiral Vexthara's dismissive comments about human crude toys and primitive projectile weapons. The Admiral had no idea that she was about to face technology that combined precursor sophistication with human tactical principles. Captain Chen met them in the docking bay, his expression tense. The Zephyrians are getting suspicious. They've been scanning the ship more aggressively, and I think they're starting to wonder why we haven't left the system yet. Dr. Vasquez hefted one of the recovered weapons, its surface gleaming with alien metallurgy. Captain, I think we found something that might change their perspective on human capabilities. What exactly did you find down there? Proof that the greatest civilization in galactic history agreed with human weapons design philosophy, she replied with a grim smile. and the tools to demonstrate that fact. Captain Chen looked at the alien weapon with a mixture of awe and apprehension. Are you saying these things actually work? Better than anything in our current arsenal, Rodriguez confirmed. If Dr. Vasquez is right about the specifications, these weapons could cut through Imperial shields like they weren't even there. The question is, Dr. Vasquez added, are we prepared to show the galaxy that human military concepts aren't as primitive as everyone believes? Captain Chen considered the implications. Using precursor weapons against the Zephyrian Empire would be an act of unprecedented aggression that could have consequences far beyond their current situation. But allowing themselves to be bullied and dismissed would confirm every negative stereotype about human weakness and backwardness. How long until the weapons are ready for deployment? He asked finally. The activation sequences are already programmed, Dr. Vasquez replied. These weapons were designed to be intuitive for any sapient species to operate. Captain Chen nodded grimly. Then let's see how the mighty Zephyrian Empire reacts when they discover that their supposedly primitive opponents have access to precursor technology. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shock the entire galactic community and fundamentally alter the balance of power in the known universe. Admiral Vex Thara stood on the command bridge of her flagship Stellar Dominion, watching the human research vessel with growing impatience. The primitive craft had remained in the system for nearly 6 hours since their ultimatum, displaying what she could only interpret as either stupidity or suicidal defiance. Admiral, reported her sensor officer, the human vessel is finally moving. They appear to be taking a trajectory toward the system's edge. About time, Vex Thara muttered, her forearms adjusting the ceremonial armor that marked her rank. Though I expected them to flee immediately rather than waste time with whatever pathetic stalling tactics they were attempting. Her aide, Commander Zekthal, approached with obvious hesitation. Admiral, there's something unusual about their departure vector. Instead of heading directly out of the system, they're moving toward our archaeological site. Vex Tharara's bioluminescent patterns flashed with annoyance. Trying to get one last sensor scan of precursor technology they're too primitive to understand. Typical human arrogance. Should we intercept them? Let them look, the Admiral replied dismissively. Their crude sensors cannot penetrate our security fields, and watching them fumble around uselessly will provide some entertainment for the crew. On the bridge of the Endeavor, Captain Chen watched the tactical display as the Zephyrian fleet maintained its loose formation around the planet. The Imperial ships seemed to be treating their approach as little more than an annoyance, exactly as Dr. Vasquez had predicted. All stop, Chen ordered as they reached the edge of the archaeological site's orbital zone. Dr. Vasquez, are your weapons ready? The archaeologist had spent the past 3 hours working with the ship's engineers to integrate the precursor weapons with the Endeavor's targeting systems. The process had been surprisingly straightforward, as if the alien technology was designed to interface with less advanced systems. Weapons are online and ready, Captain, she reported from the auxiliary tactical station. The precursor targeting computers have already identified optimal firing solutions for all enemy vessels. Sergeant Rodriguez, now serving as weapons coordinator, checked his displays with professional satisfaction. Sir, these readings are incredible. The weapons are tracking every ship in the Imperial fleet simultaneously, calculating trajectories that account for evasive maneuvers and defensive countermeasures. Captain Chen took a deep breath, knowing that his next words would either make history or get them all killed. Open a communication channel to Admiral Vex Thara. The main screen flickered to life, showing the Admiral's imposing figure. Her expression showed mild curiosity mixed with contempt, as if she were observing an interesting but ultimately harmless laboratory specimen. Human vessel, you are still within Imperial space, she stated with obvious boredom. Depart immediately or face destruction, Admiral, Captain Chen replied evenly. We've discovered something on the planet's surface that we believe will interest you greatly. Vex Thara's laugh was dismissive. Impossible. Your primitive scanning equipment cannot detect anything our advanced sensors have missed. Vasquez stepped into view of the communication pickup. Admiral, we found precursor weapon technology in the ruins below, specifically kinetic acceleration devices based on rotating barrel systems. Ridiculous, the Admiral scoffed. The precursors transcended physical weapons millions of years ago. They would never have built crude projectile systems. Nevertheless, Dr. Vasquez continued, we have 3 fully functional examples aboard our ship. The instruction manuals clearly identify them as educational tools, left behind for younger species to discover and learn from. Vexthara's patterns flickered with what might have been uncertainty, but her voice remained confident. Even if such primitive devices existed, they would be no match for Imperial shield technology. Our defensive systems can deflect any kinetic projectile. Vasquez exchanged glances. This was the moment of truth. Admiral, Chen said formally, with respect, I believe you're mistaken about that. Are you threatening Imperial forces with precursor artifacts? Vexthara's voice carried dangerous undertones. That would be an act of war against the Empire. We're demonstrating the effectiveness of human tactical principles, Chen corrected. Principles that apparently even the precursors found worthy of preservation. Without further warning, Dr. Vasquez activated the weapons systems. The precursor devices mounted on the Endeavor's hull came to life with a deep harmonic hum that seemed to vibrate through the ship's entire structure. The first target was an Imperial cruiser positioned at the edge of the fleet formation. The precursor weapon tracked the vessel with inhuman precision, calculating trajectory, velocity, and defensive capabilities in microseconds. When the weapon fired, the effect was unlike anything in human experience. Instead of visible projectiles, the device launched microscopic particles accelerated to nearly 10% of light speed. The projectiles were so small and fast that they appeared as brief streaks of light, but their kinetic energy was devastating. The Imperial cruiser's shields flared briefly as they attempted to deflect the incoming fire. For a moment, it seemed as though the Zephyrian defensive systems might hold. Then the first projectile punched through the energy barrier like it wasn't there, followed by dozens more in rapid succession. The cruiser's hull exploded in a cascade of secondary detonations as the hypersonic projectiles tore through its armor plating and internal systems. Within seconds, the kilometer-long warship was reduced to expanding debris. Impossible, Admiral Vexthara whispered, her patterns flickering with shock and disbelief. Our shields should have stopped any kinetic weapon. Your shields are designed for energy weapons, Dr. Vasquez explained as the second weapon tracked toward another target. The precursors understood that different threats require different solutions. The second Imperial vessel, a heavy destroyer, attempted evasive maneuvers as it detected the weapon lock. Its captain activated every defensive system available, including emergency shield boost and chaff dispensers designed to confuse targeting systems. None of it mattered. The precursor weapon adjusted its aim with supernatural precision, leading the target perfectly despite its desperate attempts to escape. The hypersonic projectiles struck the destroyer amidships, punching completely through the vessel and emerging from the opposite side in showers of molten metal. Admiral, Captain Chen said quietly, perhaps we should discuss the terms of our departure from this system. But Admiral Vexthara was no longer listening. Her 4 arms were dancing over her command console, issuing rapid orders to the remaining fleet. All vessels converge on the human ship. Maximum firepower. Destroy them before they can fire again. The Imperial fleet responded with disciplined efficiency, turning toward the Endeavor with weapons charging. Dozens of plasma cannons and particle beam arrays prepared to reduce the human vessel to atomic particles. Captain, Sergeant Rodriguez reported with grim satisfaction, the precursor weapons are tracking all incoming vessels. We have firing solutions on the entire fleet. Then let's show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate human ingenuity, Chen ordered. All 3 precursor weapons fired simultaneously, their rotating barrels creating a continuous stream of hypersonic projectiles that tore through space like invisible death. The Imperial ships tried to maneuver, tried to coordinate their defensive systems, but it was useless. One by one, the pride of the Zephyrian fleet was torn apart. The massive dreadnoughts, supposedly invincible with their layered shield systems and advanced armor, crumpled like paper before the precursor weapons. The smaller escort vessels simply vaporized as the hypersonic projectiles passed through them. Admiral Vexthara watched her fleet die with growing horror. This is impossible, she repeated, her voice breaking. No primitive species could wield such power. We are not primitive, Dr. Vasquez replied as the last Imperial vessel exploded in a ball of superheated plasma. We're human. And the precursors left these weapons specifically for species like us to find. The Admiral's flagship, the Stellar Dominion, was the last vessel remaining. Its shields flickered desperately as the precursor weapons locked onto it, but Vexthara knew that resistance was futile. "Wait," she transmitted, her arrogant demeanor completely shattered. "Please, I surrender. My fleet is destroyed, my forces are defeated. I yield to your superior firepower." Captain Chen considered the request. The demonstration had achieved its purpose, proving that human tactical concepts were not only viable, but had been validated by the most advanced civilization in galactic history. "Admiral," he replied, "you're free to depart this system with your remaining vessel, but I suggest you carry a message back to the Imperial Court." "What message?" Vexthara asked, her patterns dim with defeat. "That humanity is not a primitive species to be dismissed and mocked. We are innovators, survivors, and warriors. And we have just proven that our crude toys can destroy the most advanced fleet in the galaxy." Vasquez added, "Also inform your superiors that we would be happy to discuss joint archaeological expeditions to other precursor sites. After all, there may be other educational tools waiting to be discovered." The Stellar Dominion departed the system in humiliated silence, carrying news that would shock the galactic community. Within days, the story of humanity's victory over the Zephyrian Empire would spread throughout known space, fundamentally altering how other species viewed the newcomers from Earth. The human research vessel Endeavor remained in orbit around the precursor world, its crew studying the ancient ruins with new appreciation for the wisdom of their creators. The weapons they had discovered were just the beginning. Somewhere in those crystalline spires lay technologies that could revolutionize human civilization and establish Earth as a major power in the galactic community. As Captain Chen looked out at the alien landscape below, he reflected on the day's events. The Zephyrians had mocked humanity's ancient weapons, dismissing projectile systems as primitive relics of a barbaric past. They had learned too late that some principles of warfare transcend technological advancement, and that sometimes the oldest solutions are the most effective. The Gatling gun had decimated their troops just as the title had promised. But more than that, it had decimated their arrogance and forced them to recognize humanity as a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. The age of human expansion had begun, built on a foundation of ancient wisdom and timeless innovation.